Hello everyone. So in this part of the video, I'll be walking you guys through on how are we able to make forms inside ReactJS. So forms are one of the most fundamental components that almost every single application or website would be having. So form is where we are able to fill up the inputs and then we submit whatever credentials that we have given. So in that way, it's really important to actually learn about forms and how are we able to handle the inputs that are coming directly from the customers who have been giving out the credentials. And there you go. So let's get started. So form is basically like you can just need. Okay, here I have the app.js. Boilerplate code, and also you have this is the way it's running, by the way, on your right hand side. Just maybe like this, and of course. So that way we can actually make it really easily can be managed. You can see the differences every single change that I make here. So what we can do here, let's give us, it's like basic HTML form. You can do the same thing like how you have learned inside HTML. That's like commonly have been used here. For example, the first two div is going to be where we're going to fill with form. Sorry. And in this case, it's going to be a form. And inside that form is where we're going to place our first ever input. So it's going to be an input. It's a self-closing tag. And inside this input is where we're going to have all the so inside this input is where we're going to have all the details of what kind of input is it. For example, first of all, every single input will be having the type of input. For example, in the first case, we would be having the type of input would be text based input, where it's going to be where we're going to fill up input with some text. Let's give it a check. Just going to hit save, and as you can see here, this is the simple empty input text. And of course, even an input will be having like a placeholder. So placeholder will be always can be used in most of the case. For example, in this case, I'm going to say the person's first name, and let's keep. As you can see here, it says first name as well. So, and that's how a basic input field would look like, where we can actually place text-based inputs. So right now, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna make this form to be handling the inputs that coming from here, and we're gonna store it as a state. For example, let's say, we have covered states in our previous videos. For example, in order to import state, we're gonna use state. Okay, and once we have imported use state, we're gonna just declare it. For example, const. Then there's going to be a square bracket, and in this case first name, and let's make it capital, not capital, and just make it another here, and we can make the n to be big capital letter. And this is where we're going to declare the name of the function. It's called set first name, and inside here is where we're going to use state function to declare the first name. So in this case, I'm going to make the this particular first name to be just a null value. It's going to be not going to be having anything. And next thing is that what we can do here is that whenever we make a change inside our input here, let's see if I click on like this, every single time when I just give out my letters from my key, I just give out the characters here, it should be storing directly into first name, and we can't be waiting until when we click on a submit button or any sort of like save button. So that's what we should do, because React is we should be able to handle changes every single time, and we make the changes that directly coming from the users. So in that way, we are able to store more and dynamic data. So now the next thing that we would like to add here is that we're going to add another function that comes along with input. You can actually find it it always comes for every single input. For example, it's called on change. So on change, the function where you are able to make it, you are able to capture the current input, whatever that it is currently inside this input box here. It will be stored. It will be like making as a trigger. So the trigger, that is what we're gonna make it. For example, every single time when we make a change to this input, this happens. So what should be happen is we're gonna call a function called handle change. So it's going to be a function like this. Okay, So in this handle change function, where we're gonna it will take all the change that coming directly from this input. So that's what it's gonna do. So let's next, after we set the states, we're gonna make a function called handle change, and it's a function with yeah, and it has open and closing curly braces. And this is where we're gonna capture the data, capture the inputs that is coming from here, and we're gonna make it this particular first name equals to the value that's coming from this input here. So how are we able to do that? It's basically simple. So you basically need to take here and just place it right here, and basically what is the value that's coming, it's gonna be inside here. So that's the thing that we should be thinking about. So before that, let me just remove this for a while. Before that, handle change will be having a parameter that always comes anytime, every single time that when we call a function, and that's called event. So event is basically like it always comes together with handle change. So before that, let's give it a check. Let's go to console here, console log event, like this, and let's give it like a check here. So it's going to save it, and I will be opening the developer inspecting elements here. I mean, not elements, I'm going to open console here. So it's going to close all of this. I need to close this, by the way. We won't be needing the functions here. So I'm just going to hit save. So it's in type like this. Okay. So as you can see here, whenever we make a change inside our input box, let me just make it bigger. Input box, there's something that comes out along with it. For example, let's say if I make a D, and there's like this keeps on making some console here, and that console is where we're gonna make use of. For example, as you can see here, it's like showing synthetic base event. So this is the event that this is the value of this event here, and inside that event we're gonna have React name, target, in type, native event, and lastly target. So target is where we're gonna have the inputs. Okay, so that is our next. Yeah, we're gonna make it target. Okay, gonna hit save and close it all. And as you can see here, just make some. I just typed some random words, and as you can see, in the HTML tag is coming out here. So this is basically what we are like actually taking. The event is basically, so event is there's something that's coming from input type placeholder first name. So it is indeed able to capture the event. So event is, I mean, target is not what we wanted. We wanted the value of this, every single value of this. So the next thing which we need to put is after followed by target, we need to put a dot value, and then we need to hit save and clear all. And let's say if I put S, or any sort of text here like this. So basically it's just like that. Now you are able to see the value that's coming directly from here. So what it means is that we need to make sure that we need to put event followed by target followed by value, so that you are able to capture the event, the event's value that's coming directly from on change input box here. Okay, so let's give it, and that's the way where we are able to, one way we are able to make it here. So that's the first thing here, and the next thing is that we need to store it into our set. We need to make it first name to be equals to first name. Set it this value to this value here. We won't be needing it to console it here, and that's how we are able to store the data of that's directly coming from your input boxes. You just need to make sure you set the name, and which will be equals to first name here. Okay, so the next thing that we would need to do is that, let's say this is just one single input here. What happens if we have more than one input? For example, let's say this is the first name here. Let's make it another form here. Just going to make this is meant for last name here. So I'm just going to change the name, last name. Okay, so we made another new state called last name, And the next thing is that we should be doing is to make another input here, and I'm just going to take a copy of this input. In this case, the placeholder is going to be last name. Okay, and as you can see here, the name of the functions are actually same. So whenever we make a change here, this will be affecting, and whenever we make a change here, this will be affecting. So which we won't want it to be. And let's just make it two different function. Let's make it like one here, and this is going to be a 2. Same goes to here. I'm going to make a 2 of it. Make two different functions like 1 here, and then here going to be 2. And in this case, I'll be setting up the last name for this, for the second event. So, and that's it. Let's give it save, and there you go. You have your first name and your last name here. And let's give it a check. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to make this is how we are able to store the data of both the setting the last name and the first name here, and we can make it last name like this, and there you go, guys. So that's how we are able to master the first two input like this, and then we are able to save it into our states here. So the next thing is that I think it won't be practical to actually make as many states. Like for example, let's say we have more than like many inputs. Currently this is just 2. What happens when you have 10 inputs or more than that? So having more and more inputs, it won't be a good practice of coding where we need to just keep on repeating the same code, which is really a bad way. So what we can do is that in our next part of the video, we'll be looking at how to make the states as an array, as an object, so that we can store it all the data, for example first name data, last name data, in the form of like an object here. So we're going to make it this set last name or set username to be all we're going to do is just going to make it once, and we just need to make sure we just call the appropriate data that should be stored whenever a person fills input like this. So thank you guys for watching. That will be in our next video. So until then, thanks.